Hello, my name is Van Gato. I'm here with Coach Palmer for women's volleyball, and we're discussing everything women's volleyball. So this weekend, you had a big weekend. You had your first official games. You had a bunch of returning faces and a lot of new faces really make a name for themselves this weekend. You had Lily Hunt, who was leading the team in kills. You had Jessica Perkins, who was also up there in kills, also leading blocks too. And Milena Adler too, your new setter, freshman setter. And she was really leading the court with assists and really just pulling the strings and moving the ball around. So what do you take from this weekend? Although it wasn't really the best weekend for wins, what do you take away from just the losses and just the momentum and lineups?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, a lot of new faces and a lot of returning faces. But over 40% of our team is new faces, and when you lose a 4-year, starting outside and a 4-year starting setter, there's going to be some changes. So, and I think everyone's come in and done a really good job of just adapting and growing. And this is a time that we're going to learn and figure out who we are. And so, I really like the grittiness and the rebounding. We were tight in a lot of late sets. And so that's good to see. Even if we were down big, we made a big comeback. And so just that ability to rebound and stay together, I think, is really important to learn early on as we're making changes and new people are entering the court and having an impact on our program.
Speaking about last year, you lost Farango and Haywood, two big key players, two big upperclassmen. So what are you looking for these incoming players to fill these positions for, like the 01 or just like the scrappy outside that Haywood was, and just like leading an assist? Like, what are you looking for your new setter to do throughout the season?
Yeah, I mean, I want everyone to be themselves and to bring something to the table for this program. This year is not like last year, and last year wasn't like the year before that. This is a new iteration of this program, and so I want them to come in and work hard, but bring their style to the court. We're not always going to be the same team, year in and year out, but as far as, what we want to do and what we want to accomplish is always going to be the same. So just coming in, working hard, and leaving an impact on the program.
And so for practices and lifts, what are you really looking for your athletes to do, prepare themselves for a season? It's been time off, and also just with these new faces, you said 40% of the team is just new faces in general, making these connections. What do you want them to do on and off the court?
Yeah, I want them to be the complete player. When we talk about being a collegiate athlete, it's about doing everything, right? You're in class, you're lifting, you're training, film study. We're really looking for them to be a complete athlete, student athlete. So it's coming in here and working hard and treating every day like it's a competition day, because that's the only way you get better. Taking reps off and taking time off is not going to help you get what you want, not help the program continue to move forward. So we're looking for everybody to be on board, all 19, ready to go every day.
And with only having technically one official setter, last year you had a couple setters on the roster, how does that affect practices?
I think it's just being more mindful of reps and time on court, and also balancing, a little bit of a rest, just to maintain health. But we still want to compete every day, and so we're having people cross train and do things like that. And I think it's really important to have people be volleyball players first and then positionally second. So we do some different things training wise to get people ready for, different lineups and things that we may need to do.
And in a couple of the games, like serve receive was one of the main, like, not just issues, but just one of the things that where the team needed to overall improve on. So what are you implementing for practice for competition today against Kalamazoo?
Yeah, I mean, our game is all about serve and pass. If you can't serve well and you can't pass well, it's hard to do all the other things that come with playing volleyball. So just really honing in on some of the technique things and just some of the chemistry things as we're growing as a program this year, just kind of learning each other and just kind of getting better. So fundamentals and also a little bit of chemistry. And so we're working on both ends of that to improve.
Specifically with chemistry, for the people that don't know that are watching this, a lot of serve receive is it's a mental game, it's a mental battle, but you also have to work with the people around you. You need to know their seams, how they like to pass, how they incorporate, how they move. So what are you doing just with that incorporation? I heard the volleyball programs are both getting a new serving machine. Are you going to implement that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're going to definitely have the serving machine here. It should be coming today, which I'm excited about. But it just gives you a consistent server and just a way to get extra reps without relying on a human server. You can do a lot more individual type, reps. So I think it's going to be beneficial for us to add that element to our practices.
And today is your official game, for your first official home game. So what are you looking for, just the school, your team, and even our broadcast, what we can do for your first opening game.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking for an exciting facility, big crowd, loud, energetic, and just, really bring in that Concordia vibe. Last year we had a great first home game and it was electric. So we're looking for the same because that's how you build momentum. We have a lot of home games this year. We'd like to kind of get back on track a little bit, and that starts with having that home advantage for us.
Mm-hmm. And if you had to name a character for your team this year, volleyball is like very much a unit sport. It's almost as much as a team game. There is some individual moments, people have their highs and lows,
Sure.
But it's all about that team chemistry. So what is your label that you want to identify your team as for this year?
Yeah, I mean, right now I would say it's gritty. Just kind of battling back in sets and being, right there at the end. I think we've shown that ability to be gritty. Now it's pushing over the hump. So I would say that grittiness is something that's an intangible that we very happy to have. But now it's how do we build on that? How can we continue to finish off games when we have them? And how, if we're down a little bit, can we come back? And that's always with the grittiness and just keeping our foot forward.
So the women's volleyball team will be playing here tonight at 6 p.m. Coverage for that can be found at CUCougars.com. And this weekend they're hosting a quad. And coverage for that could also be found at CUCougars.com. I've been Van, and this has been Coach Palmer, and this has been your Women's Volleyball Coaches Weekly.
Hello, I'm Dr. Russell Dawn, President of Concordia University Chicago. Thank you for tuning in to today's Cougar Athletics broadcast. We take great pride in the strength of both our athletic and academic programs, which are rooted in our steadfast commitment to Jesus Christ. Dedicated to the liberal arts as a foundation of a high-quality college degree, we believe education should form individuals for service to their neighbors. This makes Concordia Chicago an exciting and fulfilling place to study, work, learn, and grow. Learn more today by visiting cuchicago.edu. Thank you, and go Cougars!
Good morning and welcome inside Geisman Gymnasium as we get set for Game 1 of today's maroon and gold triangular between your Concordia University Chicago Cougars women's volleyball team and the visiting Beavers of Blackburn College. Peter Borkowski here on the Cougar Sports Network bringing you this edition of CUC Women's Volleyball, and I'm joined on the call by Dave Dimling. And Dave, less than 1:45 on the clock before we get underway here in Geisman. So let's kind of preview these two teams lightning fast. Let's start with the Cougars coming off their first win of the season this past Wednesday, a 3-1 win over Kalamazoo College. But the thing I want to focus on from that game, Dave, is it was like we saw two different Cougars teams throughout the night. In the 3 sets they won, the Cougars looked absolutely fantastic. Kalamazoo really didn't have any answer for the CUC offense or defense, but it should be noted, in the 1 set, Kalamazoo won CUC, they looked very out of sorts. Let's put it that way. Kalamazoo won that second set very handedly. So I think the question today for Coach Palmer and his squad is going to be all about consistency.
Definitely, Peter. I think the main thing that we kind of saw in that set they dropped to Kalamazoo was they got a freshman setter for the Cougs, Milena Adler. It's kind of more about her finding her rhythm. When she's kind of got to set the tone for these Cougars tonight, or else they're going to be in a tough spot overall. And unfortunately, that's going to be a lot of pressure to give the freshmen, but that's just part of the game today.
Yeah, this is a kind of new look CUC team. CUC losing two of its major players from last year, Isabel Vernango as well as Grace Haywood. That was your primary setter, your primary kill getter, both all-conference selections. They're both now off after graduating last year, so CUC looking for answers to replace those two's production. And with the last 15 seconds we have here before we get set for starting lineups and national anthem, Blackburn College, they haven't played in a week, and we could talk about more. We could talk about that more when we get back from national anthem and lineups. But it's going to be interesting to see how rusty an 0-2 Beavers team is going to be, considering they haven't played all this week. They were last in action this past Saturday at the Illinois College Tournament. But we could talk about that more when we're back on the Cougar Sports Network in just a second. Starting lineups and national anthems coming up here shortly, and then Dave and I will be on the call with you for some CUC women's volleyball action hosting the Blackburn College Beavers. We'll be back in just a second. Well, the national anthem has been played and the starting lineups have been read, so let's go through those lineups one more time for everybody listening at home. First for the visiting Beavers of Blackburn College, it is number 10, Jordan Watts, number 12, Zoe Mitchell, number 13, Jessica Muckensturm, number 21, Kennedy Fry, number 22, Cara Pence, and number 24, Peyton Meglin. The Beavers, their assistant coach is Heather Heater, and their head coach is Shannon Bishop. As for your Concordia University Chicago Cougars, the starting lineup is number 2, Eve Dickin, number 8, Shiara Marin, number 9, Jesselyn Perkins, number 14, Michaela Levoy, number 19, Milena Adler, and number 26, Brooke Christensen. Assistant coaches for the Cougars are Michaela Fincher and Simone Speech. Head coach of CUC in his second year with the squad is Coach Andrew Palmer. Beavers, their starting libero will be number 11, Bailey Bennett, while the Cougars are throwing out the sophomore, number 6, Bethany Rothel. CUC, they'll be attacking right to left on your screen to start, and they're making the home debut of their yellow jerseys, new jersey set for CUC this year. Breaking out the yellows for this game, Bethany Rothel in the white with maroon sleeve libero kit. While for the visiting Beavers, they're attacking left to right to start, wearing their red unis with white lettering. Their libero is in gray with white lettering. Meanwhile, CUC, they get on the board first here, an early 1-0 lead thanks to a kill for Brooke Christensen. And Dave, you mentioned something about Christensen before we got back on the call, which is that on the roster, this junior, is listed as a defensive specialist, yet she has become one of, if not the main offensive force for the CUC roster, coming in with 39 attacks. That is the most on the team. So again, Coach Palmer not showing any reluctance to kind of change up some positional, what their position says versus what they're actually doing, if it's what he needs to do.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the main things you're going to see, too, with Brooke Christensen is she's an attacker at heart, it looks like. It's possible she came in as a freshman as a DS and then kind of hasn't switched around the roster a little bit. I think that'll happen sometimes in D3. And I think she's really filled out that role pretty well. Kind of, I don't want to say replacing Grace Haywood by any means, but she's definitely filling in as that elite outside hitter.
Last game, Christensen did lead the Cougars in kills with 15. One of two Cougars who were in the double digits for kills, along with Neva Foster, freshman opposite side hitter. And like Dave said, it's not necessarily about replacing Haywood, it's about reproducing that production, whether it's one player like Christensen or if you get a couple players in on it. As if you look at CUC's kill totals, they do have 3 players with 30-plus kills as of now. Christensen with 39, Lily Hunt with 35, and then Jesselyn Perkins, the freshman, has 30. As an errant serve there will lead to a Blackburn point. So they tie up the match 3-3 as they make a couple substitutions now. Back to serve is number 9, that is Abigail Subcheck. Her serve is good. Shiara Marin makes a dig. Here comes Christensen's attack. It's digged up in the back row by Bailey Bennett. Floater there, stopped by Eve Dickin. Adler to Christensen, blocked up front, picked up by Cara Pence in the back row. And now ball sent back over. There's Adler. Rothel pops it up. Christensen, mid-row attack, and a little tap there from Perkins goes at nowhere. And now we get a whistle blow point for CUC. They're going to call a 4-touch rule on the Beavers. So CUC a 4-3 lead now.
Yeah, I think one of the main things you're seeing early, Peter, is just kind of how everyone responds to the energy and the overall atmosphere. Obviously, it is 10 a.m. on a Saturday. You got to come ready to play, but at the same point, it's only natural to not exactly be as awakened as maybe a 1 o'clock game.
as Foster's attack is curved in the back row. And now a little trickler over the net. Good diving effort there by Adler. Foster, another attempt that she'll get a kill out of this. Bailey Bennett not able to get under it for the dig, so point CUC, but that is a good point you made, Dave, about, most volleyball games on Saturday are a noon start, or at least around at noon. This is by far one of the earliest you'll see a volleyball game played at this level of the game. So, like you said, how are these players going to respond? Not only getting up really early comparatively to when you might wake up for game day, but also, again, like you said, just playing a collegiate game at 10 a.m. already. It's going to be interesting to see how these two squads respond, as a substitution here for the Beavers checking in to go back and serve is a freshman defensive specialist, Jessie Wright. Foster sends one over. No problem for the Beavers. Big block up front. Perkins was the main culprit, but Blackburn able to respond. Now another block, this time from Blackburn. They're able to get it back over. Dickin for Adler. Foster gives it a little push over. Blackburn's right there. Here comes a floater, and Dickin comes up to make the play. There's Bennett. Set up there, and now hits the pin. That came off the hand of Ella Person. Refs wave the flags, and it'll now be Jesselyn Perkins going back to serve. Perkins so far this season, 30 kills. That's third on the team, as Cougars get an ace out of their freshman. Perkins out of Chicago, Illinois, Lincoln Park High School. He's now going to get a brief stoppage and resume play here for Perkins. Ball up, sent over. And off the arms of Bennett. How about another service ace? So 8-4 CUC, doubling up the Beavers as Perkins goes for 3 in a row. Doesn't look like she'll get it. And there's an attempt, and the Beavers right back on the board. Eve Dickin not able to get in front of that one, as Perkins will check out now for Bethany Rothel. And Dave, I mentioned Bethany Rothel. The libero position is going to be an interesting one for CUC. We saw them last year ever since the departure of Julia Beers, who was one of the most decorated liberos the school has seen. Coach Palmer's kind of been rotating players in and out of that defensive spot to just try and find some consistency. We've seen Rothel play there a lot between last year and this. Shira Marin had a good stint there last year. Last game in CUC's win over Kalamazoo, we even got a look at Janelle White in the position. So it's one of those positions that, again, Coach Palmer, as we saw with Haywood's position and Vernango's position, he had a really decorated player in that position, and ever since that player graduated, he's trying to find somebody who can bring consistency back to that position.
Yeah, I think one of the main things that Palmer's going for, it looks like a really good strategy, is just starting to just recruit as much depth as he can. You know, with doing that, you're just kind of bound to find someone just through the plug and play. I mean, it's only a matter of time. You mentioned a handful of players trying out for that libero spot. Most of them are going to be underclassmen too. There's going to be some experience downsides, but at the same point, they just need more reps. The more reps they're going to get, eventually they're going to find a lot of success. It's only a matter of time.
As CUC gets a point, so they build their lead back up to 3, 10-7. CUC does have 4 liberos listed on this roster: Rothel, Marin, and White, as I previously mentioned, and then Nika Barraza also listed as a libero. As the Cougars' current libero in the game, Bethany Rothel makes a nice play. CUC gets it back over the net. Here come the Beavers. Foster's there, and a little bit of a miscommunication there as Adler and Eve Dickin ran into each other. Adler ended up making the play. This ball goes out. I believe that was last touched by Ella Person. And so CUC now up by 4, and that's going to force a timeout from Coach Shannon Bishop and her Beavers. She finds her team trailing CUC 11-7. We're going to take a quick break up here in the booth as well, and when we come back, more CUC women's volleyball action for you. Don't go anywhere. You're watching the Cougar Sports Network. Back here in Geisman Gymnasium, CUC women's volleyball leading the visiting Blackburn College Beavers 11-7. And Dave, we're seeing a much closer. There we go. It's 10 a.m. for everyone. A much closer set for the CUC Cougars in this first set than really we saw all of Kalamazoo. I mean, all 4 of those Kalamazoo sets were blowouts in one way or the other. So this is going to be a good test for CUC as Eve Dickin gets an emphatic kill of being able to play in close sets at home and what's that like. It's, as it's hard to blow people out, but it's a much different game when you're up by 10 points than when you're up by 5 or 4. So I think this is going to be a really interesting test as CUC gets a service ace there.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I think the main thing, too, is it's really hard to practice playing with a little bit of that pit in your stomach. It's kind of hard to replicate that, but once you're kind of in the moment, you get to see how people flourish under those kind of situations. You'll take a look at Blackburn. They're kind of like crumbling just a little bit. They're playing a little bit of backyard volleyball, it looks like, where they're just scrambling throughout every point, just battling every time as they get a kill right there.
Yeah, good kill from Jessica Muckensturm, a senior on this roster, and one of just 3 seniors as well. Kara Pence and then Abigail Subcheck are the other 2 seniors. So this is a non-senior heavy Beaver squad. And I want to talk about that break. We'll talk about it now after what looked like a good kill from Eve Dickin was ruled out. As now it's a point for CUC. The ladder ref originally ruled at Blackburn point, but I believe her, as now we have a brief stoppage. And the referee's just confirming it's a CUC point, as now Cara Pence, one of those 3 Blackburn seniors, comes to have a chat with the ladder judge. I think Blackburn's arguing it didn't touch anyone before it went out, while the referees are saying otherwise. But Dave, you mentioned just kind of the disorganization of Blackburn right now, and as we briefly mentioned, this is a Blackburn team. They haven't seen action in a week's worth of time, and obviously you like rest, you like your players being able to heal up and recover from whatever, but at the beginning of the season, that's got to be tough, playing on a Saturday, opening up your season and then waiting a whole other week to play another game. And I think we're maybe seeing that a little bit here with the Beavers, a little bit of that rust.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's 2 different ways to go about it at the beginning of a season, where you like the idea of rest, not so much because you're out of gas or sore or anything like that, because you're still fresh. It's the beginning of the season. I think it's more about kind of getting the kinks out. You play a game or 2, see what you did wrong from the coach's point of view, and you're able to work on that throughout the week. But the other downside of that is at the end of the day, you're just going to need more reps overall. And with a smaller roster that they have, they should be adequate in getting those kind of reps in practice.
Blackburn, if you take a look at their bench, only 5 red jerseys stand at the ready. This is versus a CUC team who could field probably one or two more teams by the looks of it, if my quick math is right. So very different benches in that regards. As Blackburn on the offensive here, good play there by Marin as she almost collides with Rosal. Good attack there by Christensen and an even better block from Blackburn. CUC controls it as Eve Dickin puts a little too much on that attempt, sends it out the back of the court. As now Dickin has some words with Coach Palmer. Dickin, a senior for CUC. CUC, not a senior-heavy team either, but they have at least a few more, I believe, as we can get a more exact tally on that.
Yeah, I think one of the main things you'll see too when you mention the kind of youth overall of the Cougars is it's more so it's not in a bad way by any means. It's just kind of Palmer bringing in his personnel that he's interested in. We talk about a lot of people getting leaving through graduation, and that just kind of opens up the overall roster for Palmer. And I think that one of the things you're going to see as you continue watching this CUC team throughout the year is it's going to look like they're going to win some games that they maybe shouldn't win where they're overmatched talent-wise, but they just kind of bring the fire of that youthful overall team. But then at the same point, they're going to show up maybe a little lackluster on days where they expect to win and lose a game that perhaps they should be winning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Coach Palmer, he was hired in April of 2023. So the recruiting class that you're seeing now is really his first full recruiting class. I'm sure he was able to get a couple players once he brought here to CUC, but April 2023, that is really close to summer, which of course is right around the corner from the season. So if he was able to bring in anyone under his watch and not carried over from the previous coach, it would not have been a lot. Meanwhile, as for this 2024 team, this is his first full recruiting class that he had, a year's worth of time to bring in. As Blackburn, they're going to call another time out here as they trail CUC, 18-10. Let's take a look at some of the stats while these two teams talk things over in their huddles. Kills leaders for CUC, it is Brooke Christensen with 5. She is the game leader in kills as well. Blackburn, it is Jessica Muckensturm. She has 3. She's tied with Cara Pence with 3. So those two leading the Blackburn Beavers. As for assists, Blackburn really struggling in that category. 1 assist for Cara Pence, 1 assist for Kennedy Fry. Meanwhile, CUC relying on their freshman setter, Adler, to get the job done. She has 5 assists so far. As for some of the more team statistics, CUC hitting at a 368 mark. Blackburn not too far behind at 353, but you wouldn't be able to tell that by the score differential. Service aces, one of the big differentiators so far. 7 for CUC, 1 for Blackburn. But I do want to talk about the setting difference, Dave, because CUC 6 total assists, 5 for Adler, and then 1 for Rothel. While Blackburn, they just have 1 assist for Cara Pence and 1 for Kennedy Fry. And that just plays into that disorganization you were talking about before of, like, I think he used a really good term. It looks like they're playing backyard volleyball. Like, there's not a ton of organization, not a ton of set attacks from Blackburn that are truly working. Of course, as I say that, there's a good serve, and assist, and kill for Blackburn. But, as much talent as you might have, as much energy as you might have, that backyard style is not going to get you very far if you can't get that consistent, set, assist, kill kind of strategy.
Yeah, for sure. I think that last point's kind of a good example where, yeah, they'll mark it down as a kill, but I would overall say that it's more about just the placement of the ball location, the defense not kind of being in their perfect spot. At the end, it looks like Blackburn's main goal is more so achieving points based on the mess-ups and disorganization of the people on the other side of the net. But I think that's just not going to hold up when you face really talented teams down the road.
Big block up front for CUC. Andler and Perkins getting the job done. Freshman duo up front for Coach Palmer.
Yeah, Perkins at 6'1" at the net is going to be a wall. It's going to be really tough to play through that all season.
Yeah, CUC, they do have some height in their front line if they want it, between Perkins, 6'1", like you mentioned, Dave, Michaela Levoy, and Lily Hunt. They're both 5'11", and then a multitude of 5'10" players. So this is a Coach Palmer's team with some significant height to it. And Perkins has been doing a great job in her freshman season, offensively as well as defensively. Meanwhile, there is Foster, who earns herself a kill, as CUC just 5 away from set point, as we are quickly seeing this Cougars team pull away here in set 1. Close for a while, they now hold a 9-point advantage. Here's a serve from freshman Jordan Brown, as Blackburn, a floater, and just into no man's land. CUC kind of caught on their back foot. The old place it where nobody is, put in no man's land, and Blackburn gets a point out of it.
Yeah, I think one of the main things that a lot of teams like to think about is it's not necessarily a race to 25, but rather a race to 20. Because once you think that you get to 20, you're kind of not necessarily in cruise control, but you're going to get points like that kind of just help aid you in those quick little 5 points to get over the hump.
As Jesse Wright could only get a hand on it before it goes out. Point CUC. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I'm trying to think of what a good analogy for it would be, but it's kind of demoralizing to see a team hit that 20-point mark, especially when you and your squad don't even have 15 yet of, oh man, they're only 5 away from winning this set. We still need to even get to 20. So that's a good point, Dave, that 20 points is just, it's a confidence boost for your squad, and it's just demoralizing to see from the other team if they aren't even close. As CUC firing on all cylinders right now. That is Foster gets a kill off the failed block from Blackburn, as they are now 3 away.
Yeah, it's hard to keep the foot on the gas when you're coming from behind in this kind of situation. When you think about it, like if you're on the serving side and you think about taking maybe a little off because you want to worry about something like that, last thing you want to do is put the ball in the net and be one of the last 3 points left in the set.
Adler puts a ball into the net on a service error, as now we wait for some subs from Blackburn coming in. It is Kennedy Fry, sophomore setter out of Indiana, as her serve played by Foster, and a bad setup there by Foster put it into no man's land. Foster is a freshman, so maybe just a younger player slipping up there, as Blackburn hits that 15-point mark. They still got 7 to go before they even tie up CUC. CUC, meanwhile, they just need 3. Dickens sends the ball over. Blackburn can set it up. Floater put back by Levoy and Foster. Another attempt. Foster and Levoy get a piece of it. Adler for Dickens. Dickens sends it over. Bailey Bennett can't get much on it. Ball goes out the back of the court. Point for CUC, as it is now 23-15.
Here comes one of the few seniors for CUC trying to put the game away.
Shaira Marin checking into the game, one of 3 seniors for CUC, so the exact same amount as the Beavers. Marin joined CUC last year as a junior, coming from Puerto Rico. And whether it's been defensively or just in terms of the experience level, she has been a solid addition to Coach Palmer and his staff. As an attempt from Beavers goes out, and so Marin will head back to serve for set point. 24-15, our score here in set 1. CUC looking to close out the Beavers. Marin, a bad serve there. Looks like she just didn't really get a lot on it, as that ball died very quickly.
That is one of the things that you're able to do is when you got that big lead like that, you're able to kind of pick out zones more so as to where you want to serve, as opposed to just kind of getting the ball over the net.
Yeah, so Marin maybe trying to be more selective with where she served it, as now Brown makes an errant attempt on a pass there. Sent it way left of Adler, as that's the second time we've seen a CUC freshman slip up in that regard. And that serve goes over, so the service error ends it for CUC in set 1. The Cougars take set 1, 25-17. Blackburn able to come back a little bit by the end of the set, but CUC pulls away at the end. 25-17, our final from set 1. We'll have more about set one, some of the statistics when we come back in just a second. We're going to take a break here on the Cougar Sports Network, and then we come back, set two action between the Cougars and the Beavers.
Nursing student and choose to stand tall for healing at a university that places Christ at the center and embraces teaching students to live a life fulfilled by purpose and meaning. Concordia University Chicago's new Bachelor of Science in Nursing degree is an innovative and rigorous 4-year program that will prepare you to rise to the daily challenges of a rewarding nursing career and serve a greater cause. Our newly built modern simulation center features 4 distinct spaces, a skills attainment lab, multi-specialty intensive care spaces, a health assessment learning center, and a simulated home environment. Due to our close proximity to many world-class teaching hospitals, CUC's clinical rotations offer an abundance of diverse and real-world experiences. Learn more about earning your BSN at a Christ-centered university today.
Back here in Geisman Gymnasium, 25 seconds remain on the clock during the break between sets 1 and 2. CUC taking that first set 25-17 over Blackburn College. Some of the stats leaders real quick. Brooke Christensen leads all players in kills with 5. Meanwhile, for assists, it is Adler for CUC with 8. As for digs, Bethany Rothel has 5 for CUC. That is the most of any player, so CUC has the stats leaders across the board. But, you know, the thing I want to talk about here, Dave, is despite the fact CUC won that first set by 8 points, and they looked like they were in control of the whole set, I still don't think that was a, great set of volleyball from CUC. We saw, errors here and there. We saw players kind of run into each other, maybe some miscommunication. So despite the fact that they beat Blackburn pretty handily in that set, it still feels like there's another level for the CUC team to take where they're not just maybe beating up on a bit of a disorganized, rusty Beavers team, but they're truly playing a great set of volleyball.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you started to see towards the end of that set was CUC almost, not to sound disrespectful, but playing down to their competition a little bit. It kind of appeared as though they got a little complacent, took the foot off the gas, and just kind of not necessarily let them back into the context as they did still win by 8 points, but they're kind of just coasting for rather. And unfortunately, you can't really coast in a game that goes to a point total rather than for time.
No, and we saw with the second set of the Kalamazoo game on Wednesday, that was the first set. CUC, they won convincingly as well. And then Kalamazoo, they were a whole different team in set 2, and they really beat up on CUC. Now, credit the Cougars. They came back in those next 2 sets and looked pretty darn dominant. But it's going to be interesting to see, do we see a repeat here where, maybe CUC's kind of catching a team at a bad spot, and then that team looks like a whole different squad in set 2. So we'll have to keep an eye on what Blackburn looks like in this second set after they played their first set in a week's worth of time in set 1. Serve here from CUC, played by the Beavers. A push over from Peyton Meglin. Finds its way over off the blocker's hands and down as CUC finds themselves in a tied game now 2-2. Back to serve is Jessica Muckensturm. CUC is set for Christensen. Good kill there from Brooke Christensen. Finds the corner of the court. And CUC up 3-2 now as Blackburn will place their libero Bennett back into the game.
I find it pretty unbelievable that Christensen was recruited or listed as a DL when she's able to make swings like that. Or DS, excuse me. I find that rather interesting overall.
Yeah, Christensen in her third season as a Cougar, and like Dave said, she's definitely transitioned from her original recruiting role and still listed position on the roster of a defensive specialist into a much more heavy offensive player as that ball goes out. No touch from CUC, so point for CUC as after we saw a 2-2 game, Cougars on a 3-0 run here to take a 5-2 lead. Christensen, a high arcing serve played by the Beavers. Into the back row for Christensen. Some defense there from number 26 in gold. Adler pops it up, almost runs into her fellow player. We've had to say that a couple times. Foster looked like a bad attempt off the hand. Kind of went more horizontal than I think Foster wanted, but it ended up working. So I think if we ask number 3 in gold about that, she's going to say that was completely intentional.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the main things, we go back earlier in the point a little bit when you saw the confusion between Adler and Barraza overall was it kind of just looked like obviously you want Barraza to take the first touch and Adler to take the second touch, but a little failed communication, and that's kind of what you see right there. There's another big kill right there for number 3 in gold.
Yeah, Foster coming alive here as of late for CUC. Freshman out of Parker, Colorado.
You're starting to see a lot of talent overall from the recruiting side from Coach. And I think it's very interesting. You're going to almost be finding struggle at certain times of where we fit in all these players because some of them are just dominating overall.
Yeah, and it's not going to be a talent of question for CUC. It's going to be a talent of fit, of chemistry. When you're bringing in all these players, I mean, you look at CUC's court right now, you have a junior in Christensen, a sophomore in Rothel, as a freshman Foster gets blocked up front for a Blackburn point. And then you have 3 more freshmen in addition to Foster with Perkins, with Barraza, and then with Adler. So this is a lot of new players. I mean, yeah, all these freshmen are in the same class, but they weren't playing with each other the year before this. They were playing out in Colorado and Illinois, wherever they came from. So this is just a lot of new faces for Coach Palmer to put together quickly. And I guess the positive thing you could say is hopefully by a certain point in time, they're going to get that chemistry and they're going to become a well-oiled machine. It's just, is that point in time 3 weeks in the future or is it 2 years in the future? So it's going to be an interesting team to watch as all this talent continues to mesh for Coach Palmer and his squad.
Definitely.
Here come the Beavers. Attack there, blocked by CUC, dies down, however, so point for Blackburn.
We keep talking about the future a little bit for this CUC team who's rather young. And it's definitely in a very exciting time to be a CUC women's volleyball fan, as it's always interesting to see how the team's going to turn over when they get a new coach involved, because just overall it's going to be hard to find recruiting at the start. Naturally, it's going to be tough in the first few years, but this team looks destined for the future. You hope that it turns rather quick as for the upperclassmen, as obviously they want their chance to compete, whether it's in the NAC tournament or going deeper to a regional and such on, but I don't know. I guess only the future will tell us.
As in the right now, Jesselyn Perkins kills that ball right inside the out-of-bounds line. So number 9 in gold gets the point. Coach Palmer in his second year at the helm, and that's when you really start to see coaches. That second, really more the third year, but second's when you start to see coaches kind of form their team. First year, they're still playing largely with the remnants of the previous coach. As last season in his first year at the helm, Coach Palmer 10-17, a 4-9 conference record. So his team hoping to see improvements in both those marks. Meanwhile, Blackburn, they have to call a timeout. 10-6 is our score in favor of CUC. We're going to take a quick break up here in the booth as well, and when we come back, more CUC women's volleyball action for you. Don't go anywhere. You're watching the Cougars Sports Network. Buzzer sounds, which means timeout over for the Blackburn Beavers. They trail CUC 10-6 right now, as CUC in control of the serve here as well. Jesselyn Perkins, as her serve is up and good. Bennett has to come up as her dig goes into the net. Blackburn able to get it over. Adler, who's going to set up Foster. Foster, big block up front. Perkins able to pick up the rebound. Michaela Levoy, diving effort by Bennett to keep it alive. Blackburn gets it over. Adler, she goes for Foster. Foster stays in bounds as Blackburn, they are up in arms. They thought it went out. It kind of did look like it was out of bounds from up here, but the scoreboard referee, who is right there, confirms the CUC point as Adler, here comes attempt from Foster, and it's a point for CUC. They're going to say Blackburn touched it, and now Blackburn really up in arms as Coach Shannon Bishop is going from ref to ref, pleading her case.
Yeah, it's really hard right now to feel that the refs aren't against you a little bit as a Beaver fan. Coach is pulling hairs over there, just losing her mind, unfortunately, during the second set. A couple calls don't go her way. She's probably thinking right there, ball does not lie, as some people would say.
Ball doesn't lie if you're a Beavers fan on that errant serve from Perkins. Yeah, that play was so quick. The attempt was so quick from CUC. It was really hard to see if it was indeed a tip or not from Blackburn. Either way, CUC gets the point. Here comes the serve from Jessie Wright. Adler, she looks for Foster. Foster, it's blocked up. A big rebound picked up by the Beavers. Adler, now for Christensen from the back row. No good on that attempt. Bennett, as she looks for Person. Rothel picks up the dig. Here comes Foster for CUC, blocked up front. Foster cleans up her own miss, but Rothel not able to get to the ball in time. Bounces over the heads of CUC's two assistants. Michaela Fincher, who was on the roster last year as an assistant coach, and then new to the squad this year, Simone Speech.
I think one of the things we're seeing, too, in this second set is the overall chemistry building between Adler and Foster, the freshman connection that you hope to see keep growing for the next 3-4 years. There's a point right there for Blackburn.
Blackburn gets a point on the errant attempt from Brooke Christensen as they're starting to claw back in this one. 12-9 our score here. CUC on top. Blackburn, bad serve there off the hand of number 2 in red, Jessie Wright, freshman defensive specialist out of Taylorville, Illinois. As it will be Adler now. Melena Adler coming to CUC from Fenton, Missouri. And that ball bobbled around by CUC. Two-touch rule called on the Cougars. As the Beavers back within 3 now, 13-10. Bailey Bennett.
I think one of the things you're starting to see, too, as well, is they're trying to claw back. You see the CUC bench getting more and more into it. Obviously, it's only the 6 players on the court that are going to be determining the points, but as in a game of momentum, you love to hear your bench getting excited overall, as that's going to provide more energy for the players on the court.
Right, and if you're going to look at that advantage, you have to account for the fact that the Beavers are rocking a 5-person bench right now. Short-handed compared to a much longer CUC bench. As Adler, she goes for Dickin. Dickin blocked up front, but CUC gets it right back over. And now that ball tipped by CUC and out, and we have a 1-point game here as Coach Palmer walks up courtside and wants to have a word with Foster. Marceau just pointing out where he wants her, as he has seen what was at one point a pretty decent lead chip away, but Michaela Levoy able to keep her team afloat with a kill there. Good floater into no man's land as Coach Palmer switches out Foster with Marin. Marin, ball up and over. The Beavers, good attempt there. Good pickup by Christensen to keep it alive. Now Christensen, an attempt too strong on that one as it goes out. And point Beavers, excuse me, as going back to serve will be Kennedy Fry. Good serve there from Fry right into the arms of Christensen. Levoy into the blocker's hands and down.
Yeah, CUC's got quite different ways to kill overall. Kind of like a Swiss Army knife on that offensive side overall.
And she just checked out, but I think it should be noted Michaela Levoy's play, the junior, as a good kill from Eve Dickin, catching the Beavers defense off guard. But the ability of Levoy, the junior, to just come into this freshman, this underclassman heavy 6 on the court for CUC and just provide some steady, consistent play. She got a couple kills. She always does well on the front line defensively. So that's where Coach Palmer is really going to be relying on his couple seniors and then his few juniors as well, of just being able to come in and provide kind of a steady hand for those freshmen, those sophomores on the court.
Yeah, of course. I think one of the things, too, that helps with the experience is kind of just allows you to ride the middle ground, a little better. Obviously, the underclassmen are going to get excited, maybe ride those highs a little too high, but then also trail on those lows maybe a little too low. And I think the upperclassmen are definitely going to help keep them on the track where they should be.
Servers number 22,
Cara Pence back to serve for her Beavers as they trail by CUC 17-14. Much closer set so far than we saw in set 1. Perkins didn't stay in. It did not, just out of bounds. And the Beavers back within 2 now. That ball landed right in front of the near side flag referee. And I think she had probably the best view you're going to get on a ball as Marin for Adler. Here comes Christensen. It's popped up going towards the bleachers. The Beavers save it. Good run out there from Peyton Meglin. As now a strong attempt from Eve Dickin. Too strong to handle for the Beavers. Off a forearm and out. Just too much gas for the Beavers to control on that attempt from CUC senior out of St. Louis, Missouri.
Yeah, Eve Dickin, not a whole lot of playing time this season so far, but she's definitely making it count in these first 2 sets, as she's received more playing time today than she has most of the year.
Yeah, we did not see her play a lot in that Kalamazoo game on Wednesday, and then she got the starting nod here tonight, this morning against the Beavers. So Coach Palmer being able to use his senior in different ways, as there's a point for CUC off a block out of bounds by the Beavers. 19-15 our score here in set number 2. As back to serve is Barraza. Ball put over by the Beavers. CUC well in control. Perkins able to get the kill. Bad angle there for Meglin. And it feels like as we get towards the end of the set, and now the Beavers call a timeout, Beavers might be running out of juice here, Dave. I mean, we see this is a shorthanded squad versus a CUC team who can just keep rotating in fresh players after fresh players. So I think maybe towards the end, I mean, this was a 2-point game, a 1-point game not that long ago, but I think we're seeing the Beavers kind of fall back a little bit here towards the end of the set, maybe getting just a little too gassed.
Yeah, I think the main thing you got to think about, too, is it's not just physically draining. It's also mentally draining. Obviously, it's early in the season, but you're 0-2. You lost the first set this morning. Maybe didn't wake up quite right before you got on the bus. Now you find yourself down 5, and the Cougars only 5 points away from winning the second set and taking a commanding lead overall in this match. And obviously, you as a Blackburn fan, you got to find a way. You got to hope that this ball club finds a way to bounce back into it and keeps competing, because the last thing you want is to already be demoralized and out of the contest, because once you're out of the contest in this one, you got to realize they got another game today. They got to find a way.
Yeah, both these teams will play against Fontbonne, who is in attendance right now. They are way to the left of us up here in the broadcasting section, wearing their all-white traveling uniforms. Blackburn will take on Fontbonne at 12 p.m., and then CUC faces off against Fontbonne at 2 p.m. to round out the gold and maroon try. As customary, the home team plays the first game and the last game, give themselves that middle break, that advantage that the home team can give themselves. So, yeah, but it'll be interesting to see as that ball touches court for Blackburn, a point. Dave and I will not be on the call for that Fontbonne-Blackburn game, but it will be interesting to see, for everyone who will still be watching, Jonathan Shear will be on the call with you, just what this Blackburn team looks like after playing this match against CUC. Because, I mean, that game is slated for a 12 p.m. start time. It's almost 11, so even if this game wraps up quickly, it's not going to be a ton of break for Blackburn before they're right back in action. Good defense here from Blackburn. Almost keep it alive, but it eventually touches down. A sliding effort from Zoe Mitchell, and she just couldn't get the ball up enough as it died down on top of her. Almost went head first into the net pole.
Yeah, good to see she's okay right there when you get that close to the pole.
The pole and a ref stand. Now, both of them are padded, so it's not like she'd be going headfirst into metal. Still can't be a good feeling, however.
No, definitely not.
Here come the Cougars. Good kill. Neva Foster. She's been making a living on that far side corner as she continuously finds the corner of the court. As here's a serve from Christensen. Bennett. Here come the Beavers. A little float attempt and no good. As 4-touch rule, they're going to say that ball never got over from the attempt of Peyton Meglin. So CUC 2 away from claiming set 2 now, as Blackburn quickly running out of room, and a service ace. Brooke Sheriff snipes the corner. Beavers looked like they thought that was going out. It did not go out, so point for CUC. Set point now for Christensen and the Cougars. Beavers trying to stay alive, popped up by Barraza, as the Beavers cannot rebound after the ball sent their way. Ball touches down, then that'll be point 25 for CUC, and they take set number 2, 25-16, an even bigger differential than set number 1. So CUC very much in control of this game so far as we head now to our third set of action. Teams will have about 3 minutes to collect themselves. Meanwhile, then when we come back, CUC looks to go for the 3-0 sweep, while the Beavers look to come back and make this match a game. See what happens when we return here on the Cougar Sports Network in just a second.
Here at Concordia University Chicago, and we're here outside of Concordia Hall. Concordia Hall is the university's newest residence hall, right on the edge of campus, perfect for students who want to explore the nearby downtown of Oak Park and River Forest. The flexible suite-style living in fully furnished bedrooms lets students choose what works best for them. Every floor is complete with a community lounge and full common kitchen, with a kitchenette, microwave, sink, and refrigerator. The first floor offers the Victory Lounge, connecting to 2 additional residence halls, with no shortage of ways to relax. You're also right next to an open, outdoor plaza, better known as Victory Lane.
So now we're here in Concordia Hall's suite-style dorm room, and this is a really nice place to just hang out and chill. And since it's so big, there's plenty of room to spread out and do your homework and just relax. So now making our way into one of the bedrooms, there's plenty of space in this room for you and your roommate. A lot of times students will move the desks so that they've got their separate study space, but my roommate and I, we get along really well, so we can just work together here in the same space. Sometimes I like doing art as well, as you can see by the painting here. It's a 16 by 10 feet space, and most rooms on campus are 10 by 12 feet. So it's really nice to have a little extra space to work with here in Concordia Hall. So this hall is super close to the chapel and the Kennecke Community Center, which has the new Crossroads Dining Hall. So the location is super convenient. And I really love the city scene too. The location here is the closest on campus to the Oak Park River Forest downtown area, which has a ton of great stores and restaurants. Speaking of the city scene, I adore the view from this lounge because you can see the Chicago skyline right there.
Concordia Hall at Concordia University, Chicago.
Back here in Geisman Gymnasium as we prepare for set 3 of today's opener for the Maroon and Gold Tri between your CUC Cougars and the visiting Beavers of Blackburn College. CUC took set 2, 25-16, as they are very much in control of this match. And Dave, I just kind of want you to break it down for us here, just brass tacks, down to basics. Blackburn needs to win this set to stay alive in their first game of today's try. What do they need to do here in set 3 compared to what they were doing in sets 2 and 1 to come away with this set 3 win and force set 4? Because once you get to set 4, who knows what happens? We can talk about the ramifications of that in a second, but what does Blackburn need to do this set to make that 4th set happen?
I think the main thing, too, is it comes down to just kind of cleaning up the mistakes. Obviously, that's more of a practice thing that they got to work on as well as after they leave this try. But overall, I think it comes down to just playing a smoother version of volleyball, maybe kind of staying level-headed throughout the course of the match. I think there's a lot of issues that they have overall and just kind of falling out of position a lot of times. One of the things I like seeing after they lost that second set, the senior Cara Pence kind of pulls the ladies on the court all together and says, hey, we got to wake up. We got to still compete. There's still plenty of match left if we're able to kind of leg it out and win this set. Win the next one, you find yourself in a kind of winner-take-all situation.
Yeah, I think set 3 is, I think it's more pivotal than people may think because, yes, on the surface level, if CUC wins, they win the game. If the Beavers win, then they then they move to set 4. But what happens when you get to set 4 is that team who is up 2-0, they start to feel that pressure of, this other team, they're kind of coming back here. If we lose this set, we're going to set 5. And then if we lose that set, we just blew a 2-0 lead. So this 3rd set is very important for the team ahead to just close things out now before the other team can even sniff any kind of comeback attempt. So this is going to be a big set for CUC to try and shut down the Beavers and not give them any source of life going into set 4. As Eve Dickin, a floater, gets down, beats it Bailey Bennett to the court. Bennett just a step behind that ball. As Bethany Rothel back to serve now for the Cougars. Rothel, sophomore, wearing the Libero jersey all game today. She started last game at Libero and then was switched out of the spot after set 2. And set CUC lost badly. And then it was Janelle White who carried CUC the rest of the way as Libero. We haven't seen White make an appearance yet today. As here comes Blackburn. Ball popped up by Adler. Rothel now gives it to Eve Dickin. Dickin off the blocker's hands into the back row. Here comes Bennett. Blackburn sends the ball over, and Marin, a bad touch as that lands right in front of the middle of CUC's bench. And it will be a point for the Beavers.
You can tell kind of the mindset, too, with Coach Palmer's. It's time to step on their throats right now. Finish it early as he kind of keeps that same rotation out there that he's had the last 2 sets. It's not about trying new things at all right now. It's let's win the day.
That ball clipped Marin, so Blackburn a point closer to CUC now, 4-3. As here is Cara Pence. Adler, trying to play a bad pass from Christensen. That ball was over Adler's hand. She could only get some fingertips on it. And that means the set was lackluster for her fellow Cougars. And because of it, Blackburn up tied up 4-4 as a service error from Cara Pence. And I think that's something else that would be key for Blackburn here that's been missing all game, which is that Blackburn really hasn't gone on any major runs this game. They've had a couple, few point swings here and there. Like we saw one there. They got 2 points in a row to make this a, 4-4 game momentarily. But they haven't had those 5-6 point runs that CUC will go on to really build up their lead. And, in a game of volleyball, you really need those runs, especially in a game where you haven't had them yet and you are losing 2-0 in the match because of it.
Yeah, I think the main thing, too, that you've been seeing all morning, with Blackburn is they're kind of just clawing back in and stay in the competition as long as you can and then jump out at the last second. And right now, that's kind of what they're doing right now, whereas in the first 2 sets, they kind of never really quite clawed back in the match. CUC just got a really commanding lead early, and then they kind of just took care of business the rest of the way.
Good play by Adler to keep the play alive. CUC sends it over. Now Blackburn with some good defense. As Marin for Christensen. Good block. Oh, Christensen going down to pop the ball back up as Rothel dives forward, makes the play. Here comes Blackburn now. Sent it over, and Marin not able to get under it as she falls forward. So point for Blackburn as they are up by 1 now, 6-5. Yeah, I think we saw a very similar pattern in the first 2 sets where CUC was in the lead for most of the set. Blackburn able to stay within a few points throughout the whole set, and then CUC would go on one of those big runs I mentioned to really pull away from Blackburn, as Blackburn just has not been able to until this point have that run to overtake CUC. Now we're seeing that. They are up 7-5, which only 2 points, but feels like a massive lead for a Blackburn team who's been on their back feet all game. Here comes an attempt from Christensen. Popped up. Good defense in the back row by Pence to keep it alive. Freebie sent over for Rothel. Adler, she goes for Christensen. Blocked the ball right to net for a second, and now point ruled for the Beavers. 4-touch rule caught on CUC. You gotta wonder if Coach Palmer's eyeing that timeout. We haven't seen CUC take one yet, but this is unprecedented right now for CUC to be down by 3 to Blackburn. As Rothel, a bad defensive play there, and now we'll get the timeout. As this is a 4-point lead now for the Beavers.
Yeah, I think one of the things you kind of want to see that Palmer was kind of hoping to see was just how the team reacts to just overall tough spots like that where they're losing momentum, such and such. I mean, I think that's kind of what you're seeing right now in this time. How he's just talking to his staff, not even talking to the team overall, just kind of giving them a chance to talk to each other, maybe pull themselves together, get the upperclassmen, the leaders to kind of explain what the issue is, maybe talk it over a little bit as you see Lily Hunt kind of gathering the conversation, Kate Foley. They haven't played a ton of points overall today, but they're kind of rallying the young players back into it, letting them know it's going to be all right. We're still up 2-0, nothing to worry about. Let's come back and win this set.
A 5-0 scoring run right now for Blackburn. Meanwhile, it's a busy day for CUC athletics on the whole. I've talked about the maroon and gold try here. CUC taking on Blackburn. Game 2 will be Blackburn versus Fontbonne, and then Game 3 at 2 p.m. That second game's at 12, by the way. That third game at 2 p.m., CUC will wrap up against Fontbonne. Women's tennis, they open up their season right outside Geisman on the CUC tennis courts. A 10 a.m. start against the Milwaukee School of Engineering, as you can take a peek inside the live stats for that. Maybe have a chance to see who's winning women's tennis first game of the year as we get a quick mopping break here right in front of the Blackburn bench. It's Coach Shannon Bishop doing the towel. You kind of think they'd get someone else other than the head coach to wipe down the court, but
Willing to get down and dirty. Love that out of the coach.
I'd say maybe fire up her squad a little bit. So other than women's tennis, who having trouble seeing the updated score on, women's soccer, their senior day will be at 1 p.m. right here at Concordia Stadium outside of Geisman Gymnasium. Dave and I will be on the call for the senior day for the women's soccer squad taking on Coe College. Football, they open up their 2024 season down south in Greenville, Illinois at Greenville University. That's a 1 p.m. start time. And then men's soccer rounds out the lineup, taking a trip to the University of St. Francis in Joliet for what will be their second game of the year. So full day of CUC athletics. Women's soccer and women's tennis are in action tomorrow as well.
Yeah, I think a couple people listening to the broadcast might have heard you say senior day for the soccer team. Might be a little confused, thinking it's the first week of September. What are we talking about? And that kind of comes from Coach Garcia wanting to just kind of be focusing strictly on the softball at the end of the year when they're going for a NAC bid overall for the tournament.
Yeah, Coach Garza preferring to get it done early comparatively to usually it's the last home game for teams. That's the usual trend, but Coach Garza instead elects for home game number 3 for his squad, and like they've said, they'll get it out of the way. Sounds a little blunt, but they will get it out of the way now. All the emotions that come with senior day, and then like they've said again, be able to focus on soccer the rest of the way out. But we got some volleyball to focus on here. CUC attempting a comeback after Blackburn has looked like a radically different team in this third set. It's an 11-7 lead for the Beavers. Serve from Perkins. Bennett goes down for it. Mitchell, ball sent over. Christensen, one-handed play. Bennett has to play it back. Here come the Beavers, a floater. There is Barraza. Foster, her attempt is stopped. Attempt from the Beavers. Adler, she goes back row for Christensen. Sends it to the other back row. Here come the Beavers now. Ball popped up. Adler. And a bad serve there from Adler. She was looking for Harmony Cooper, freshman out of Chicago. We haven't had a call yet. Number 24 in gold. And just that serve a little too much on it from Adler. Went right over the head of Cooper.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you get to see too out of is there's a point right there for Blackburn, excuse me. I think one of the things that you see too out of Christensen is she's got that defensive background overall that really aids her in playing every rotation on the court. Really helps the cause as she's able to kind of make a lot of digs that some of them might not show up on the stat sheet, but it's a huge, huge benefit at being able to play every rotation.
Yeah, I think that's maybe something that people undervalued with Grace Haywood the last couple of years was she was always in the top of the rankings for digs for CUC as well. So not only was she this outstanding offensive player who, broke records for kills, but she was a very good defensive player as well. And Christensen kind of that same mold of, as we've seen, been able to get quite a number of kills throughout the season while also playing strong defense, kind of that defense to offensive, all in one player. As here comes a push from Mitchell, it goes out. No, Cougar got a touch on it. So CUC back within 3 now.
I think one of the things that we're getting to see a little bit too out of Adler the Cougars setter. She's going for a few more skips at attacks overall, and I think that's going to be an interesting thing that you're going to get to see as she continues her career overall. Is don't be too afraid of doing it. It hasn't panned out too well today, but it can be a very, very great tool to have in your kit.
Adler gets the service ace and now the service error. So the Beavers back up by 3 points, 14-11. As Bailey Bennett will be back to serve now. Libero, her serve is over. Falling forward to make the plays, Foster, and Christensen has to send a freebie over. There's Bennett. Ball popped up. Person gets nothing on that attempt. Here comes Foster. Bennett right there for the dig. Good dig there. Had to go all the way down for it. Ball sent over again. There's Foster again to Adler for Dickin. Ball popped up, and we have a nice little volley going on here. Ball sent to the CUC back row. Adler, she's going to go for Foster, and Foster will finally end the volley. Unable to dig it up was Jesse Wright. And now, Dave, maybe we could see if that was a bit of a momentum swing for CUC. Being able to win a big volley like that can do wonders for your confidence. And maybe it's what CUC needs to do to get over this 2-point hump they're at right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think you as a Cougar fan, you're going to hope that kind of gets them right back on pace. They're able to win those long possessions, and then if they're able to do that, they can kind of snag a couple easy points here and there, just like that.
Big block up front, Eva Dickin and Harmony Cooper. And CUC back within one now. Trying desperately to tie this match up. Tie the setup, I should say. They win this set, they win the match. Blackburn fighting for their match lives meanwhile. Adler, she's going to go for Dickin. Dickin hits the net, but Blackburn able to play it. Here comes Christensen now. Strong attempt, stays inside the lines. Blackburn, no one in the vicinity, so I think they're just sending up some quick prayers that it went out.
Yeah, it's happened a few times right there with Blackburn, just kind of not quite knowing the out of bounds, especially on that back line, just letting a couple go, and it ends up costing them overall.
So maybe some poor judgment on Blackburn's point as a dunk attempt there from Blackburn is quickly stopped by the Cougars. That was Jessica Muckensturm trying to get the dunk, and now CUC on a 4-0 run to take a 15-14 lead. They're 10 away from claiming this match, but Blackburn right behind them, even if they are reeling right now in the set. Muckensturm, a little punch over.
Yeah, definitely not form technique right there, but gets the job done temporarily, but not quite.
Got the ball over, but all that did was give CUC a chance to get the kill, and that's going to cause Blackburn to take a timeout. A 5-0 run from the Cougars give them a 16-14 lead. We're going to take a break up here in the booth as well, and when we come back, we'll have more set 3 action for you. CUC on top of Blackburn, 16-14. Don't go anywhere. You're watching the Cougars Sports Network. (16-14) is our score inside Geisman Gymnasium as the Cougars women's volleyball team looking to close out set 3 and close out this match against the visiting Blackburn Beavers. Peter Borkowski, Dave Dimling with you on the call as we are quickly approaching what could be the end of this match. CUC, they win set 3. They take the match. The Beavers, they win set 3. They force set 4 as there's a good kill into the back corner. That'll help out the Beavers' case. Kennedy Fry back to serve now for her Beavers. Fry, sophomore out of Indiana, as a good diving dig from Bethany Rothel. Brooke Christensen, strong attempt, and it lands. Jesse Wright got a piece of it, but the ball didn't get any airtime. So it dies down as CUC. They now have themselves a 2-point lead once again. 17-15 our score. Ball sent over. Adler's there.
Oh, a little tough communication right there from the Cougars, unfortunately. They let that ball drop in.
And that brings Blackburn back within 1. 17-16. Adler, she goes for Dickin. Dickin popped up by Blackburn. They're back on the offensive. Now the Cougars are. Rothel looks for Christensen. And it's digged up by the opposing Laburo and Bailey Bennett, and that eventually leads to a Blackburn point. So Blackburn's timeout seems to be serving them well. They've evened this game up now, 17-17.
This is kind of what we talk about a little bit with the overall. You start to feel a little bit of pressure mounting overall for the Cougars. It's not true pressure because, you know, they're up 2-0 on the sets category, but you're late in this set, and it's kind of just, you're starting to feel it just a little bit creeping up on you as Blackburn takes a 1-point lead there.
18-17 in favor of the Beavers. Perkins, her attempt goes nowhere. The Beavers pop it back over to CUC's end. Adler, she looks for Christensen, hits the net, and that's going to be 4-touch rule called on CUC. Bad attempt there from Christensen, and that put the Cougars dead to rights as they had to have touched it a 4th time. So the Beavers now a 2-point lead, trying to pull away in this at the end of set 3 here. Trying to force set 4. Adler finds Dickin, a floater, good kill, Eve Dickin. And Dave, that's always kind of a mark of a smart offensive player, is knowing when to take the gas off. As we saw there, Dickin could have wound up for, you know, the haymaker attempt, but instead just a little floater to get it over the blockers right behind them. So it's always nice to see out of players when to take off the gas and when to, you know, be a little more aggressive.
Definitely. It's not always about the raw power side. Sometimes you got to showcase the finesse. If you want to be one of the upper echelon players that are going to be a big driving reason as to why your team's going to have success, if you're going to be on the front lines, you got to be able to showcase the power, the finesse, and sometimes a little bit in between. It's all about reading the defense overall.
So, after a brief tie, the Beavers back in control. They're the first to 20. A little different this time because CUC, they're only at 19, so I don't think the 20 mark is as big an effect right now as we saw it the last couple sets with CUC when they'd be up 20-13 or something similar. As that ball gets over the blocker's hands and dies down for CUC point. So we're all evened up at 20. It's the first of 5 now. Remember, in volleyball, you have to win the set by 2. So no 25-24 final scores. As Mitchell for Rothel. Here comes Foster. Strong attempt there, and Bennett able to get a hand on it, but not able to get back in position. So Bennett, a good dig on the first attempt for CUC, but then that kind of took her out of position, which allowed the Cougars to feast on that open court and take a 21-20 lead and now force a Blackburn timeout. So, Dave, we have 4 points to go here for CUC, 5 for Blackburn. just talk about, from the Cougars' point of view, what needs to happen in these last 4 points, whatever it takes to win this set. This is a very different Blackburn team than what we've seen before. So what does the Cougars need to do on their end of the court to put this Beavers team away for good, win this set 3, and come away with a 3-0 sweep?
At the end of the day, there's a fine line between staying aggressive and then being just kind of over the top and out of control. I think the main thing, too, is maintain the composure, realize you got 4 points left, kind of take care of business, and then you can rest for the next couple hours or however long that Fontbonne matchup's going to take. It's all about just kind of finishing strong, end the first part of the day on a good note, put you in the right spot for the next match. Overall, I think the main thing, too, is you got to remind the younger players it's not always about, like, this set's not going to determine the match overall. You got to stay calm and under control, whereas on the other side of the net, this set means everything. This is where the pressure is mounting for them overall. A lot more stress, a lot more tension on that side of the net with Blackburn.
Serve from Christensen, too strong. Blackburn, who has seemed to have some struggles reading balls in and out of bounds today. They read that one correctly, 21-21. First to 4 now. As going back to serve is Abigail Subcheck, number 9 in red. Her serve is good. Knocks Christensen to the ground as Foster pushes it over. Subcheck goes opposite side. Bennett keeps it alive. Blackburn helps out their libero. They get it over. Adler now. She's going to go for Perkins. And that ball off a hand. Blackburn still keeps it alive. They got to get it over. And they do as that ball hits Christensen. I think Christensen got confused there if it was going out or not, and it just ended up hitting her right in the arms. Her arms were kind of folded up against her chest, so just a bad read there from Christensen as it's 22-21 now. Here's Adler. Adler for Foster. Foster ties up the match.
Yeah, I think going back to that last play with the tie-up, a little confusion on the communication side overall is it's going to be a little nerve-wracking in this kind of event when the only upperclassman on the court at that point was Christensen. Naturally, you're going to maybe show a little bit more towards her as she's running behind you. But at the same point, you got to remember, we're all on the same team. We're all going for the same goal. If it's your ball, take the ball. Put it bluntly.
They'll take the ball back to serve now after getting the point. 23-22 the score. It's Perkins. CUC 2 away from closing out this match. Blackburn still right on their tail. Ball sent back. Perkins for Adler. Adler for Foster. Foster with the kill. And that'll bring set point and match point for CUC. Jesselyn Perkins will serve Blackburn. They need 2 straight points here. Again, you have to win by 2. So if Blackburn can get to 24, it becomes a whole different game. They got to survive here. And they do survive. Whistle blows. Referees calling a violation on CUC. And now the pressure is on Blackburn. Is on the Cougars, excuse me. 1 point, they win, but if they give this point up, Dave, then they have to get into the battle of 2s. As the serve from Blackburn, played by Rothel, and we will have some extra volleyball here in set 3.
Only thing better than volleyball is a little bit more volleyball overall.
Yeah, and now it becomes a really interesting game, Dave, because you need 2 straight points to win, right? You got to win by 2, so you have to win 2 volleys in a row, which in this set has kind of been hard to do for either team as this ball pops up and it'll die down. Blackburn, a good run out, but not able to get there in time. 25-24 CUC for match point once again.
You also see Fontbonne leaking out of their makeshift locker room, the hallway, kind of getting a look as to what these 2 teams have to offer in the last remaining points of the set.
Blackburn, they have to score here, and they don't, and they seal their own fate. Blackburn sends the ball out. CUC earns the point and the win. They take set 3, 26-24, and they win this match 3-0. And Dave, I think obviously you don't like seeing a team blow that lead in the last couple of points. CUC had multiple chances to end it at the usual mark of 25. But I think you still like to see this if you're Coach Palmer, because you had 2 dominant sets. And like I said at the top of the broadcast, those dominant sets, obviously it's hard to get in that position, but at a certain point it becomes easier to win those because of how much you're up. But it's these sets, these 26 to 24 sets, that really show kind of the mettle of a team. So I think, again, you don't want to be in this position, but I think Coach Palmer is happy to see his team come away with a set win like this third set.
Definitely, definitely. I think the main thing, too, is you have to take a step back for a moment and realize you can't expect freshmen to perform in any way at all. That's kind of just like a tough thing to ask out of a new player to the collegiate level, and they have quite a handful of them that are not only performing but like showcasing elite sides overall. Obviously they're still young, they're going to make mistakes, but with the proper leadership they could find themselves in a really good spot in this season as they just grow and develop their chemistry and kind of learn what the collegiate level is all about overall.
Well, let's look at some of the final statistics from today's match. CUC wins 3-0, one set, 25-17, 25-16, and 26-24. As for your kill leader for Blackburn, it is Peyton Meglin with 7, but leading the match and the Cougars is Brooke Christensen with 15. Also got a shot out Neva Foster with 14, a very impressive game from the freshman. In terms of assists, on the stat sheet, I mean, it doesn't get much better than Milena Adler. 34 assists dished out, a great number for a freshman to put out in 3 sets. She still made some mistakes here. That's kind of the scary thing to say, is that, hey, she put up 34 sets while making mistakes throughout the match. So Cougars, they might have a really good setter in Milena Adler if this game, and what she's done so far this season is anything to go by. Lead assist getter for Blackburn, meanwhile, was Kennedy Fry. And as for the defensive players, Diggs, it was Bethany Rothel with 14. Milena Adler, she had 10 herself. On the Blackburn side, Bailey Bennett with 12. Kennedy Fry with 10. As for blocks, Zoe Mitchell with 2 for Blackburn, while the Cougars, Eve Dickin and Harmony Cooper putting up 2 each for CUC. But that'll do it for game 1 of the Maroon and Gold Tri. CUC taking on Blackburn and taking down the Beavers 3-0. Cougars, they'll be back in action at 2 p.m. when they take on Fontbonne University. And in between, Fontbonne taking on Blackburn. Jonathan Shear will be on the call with you guys for that one. But I do want to say thanks to everyone who made this Cougar Sports Network production possible here in Game 1. On scoreboard, we had Eric Perry, our libero tracker for the game, Grace King, Tyler Dorsch providing the stat spotting, camera Courtney Schneider. Our producers were Abby Kulig and Lindley Southern. Alan Mateo walking around courtside taking photos for the team. And then we are under the direction of our graduate assistant, Sydney Lloyd, our newly minted assistant sports information director, Corey Welch, her first week on the job, doing a great job so far. And then we're under the direction of our sports information director, Kayla McLeod. CUC, they take game 1 3-0 over Blackburn. Want to say thanks to Dave Dimling, of course, for joining me on the call. Dave and I will be on the call at 1 p.m. for Women's Soccer Senior Day, but Jonathan Shear will be on the call with you guys the rest of the way if you stick around watching volleyball. But until next time, this is Peter Borkowski signing off of the Cougar Sports Network and wanting to say, as always, go Cougars.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's Concordia University Chicago Cougars Athletics broadcast. We hope to see you on campus very soon. If you would like to learn more about what Concordia Chicago has to offer, go to cuchicago.edu.